And Delia says she's going to be a couple of minutes late, but I think we should get going and just kind of check in, and then I'll present this latest workshop exercise that I've done, and we'll see where the conversation goes. I just want to say that a couple of things. First of all, thanks to For Culture, who's helped fund this series of workshops, Poetics as Cosmology, Fall 2022, and the Des Moines, Washington Arts Commission, which really, Barbara McMichael, thank you so much for suggesting I apply for a King County grant, because I finally did get one. And a couple of the workshops happened in Des Moines. 3 of them happened in West Seattle. And a connection was made with the Des Moines Arts Commission that may lead to the staging of the Cascadia Poetry Festival in Des Moines for a number of years. And the organization has been looking for many years for funding for this festival, so that we don't have to reinvent it every year. Oh boy, did I lose you? Am I frozen? Did I freeze there for a second?
Your video was.
Yeah. I wonder what that'll do to the video.
Your voice didn't freeze though.
Oh, is that right? Well, that's cool. So, to have the event in the same place every year is something we're gearing for. So we have a very important application in March that, if secured, would give us funding for our new press and also funding for at least 5 years of the Cascadia Poetry Fest at the Beach Park Events Center in Des Moines, which is on Puget Sound. Is it 4 acres, Barbara? 4 acres of land?
No, I think, well, it connects with the trail then. So I don't know for sure. I guess that's my best answer.
So there's a trail and a creek that goes through. The creek sometimes goes under buildings. It's a salmon bearing creek. It empties out into Puget Sound. There's a marina nearby, and Des Moines is a nice little seaside town in South King County, where we may be doing our fest. We're hoping for the best. That fest would start in spring of 2024, and our big deadline is next March for that grant that we're hoping to get, and we would find out in September. So, of course, the fest itself will be happening at the Richard Hugo House, October 6th, 7th, 8th. Please forgive my shitty Wi-Fi here at the Best Western in Danville, California. But we're launching also a publishing arm called Watershed Press, and they will be the press will be publishing Cascadian Zen Volume 1, which looks to be pretty amazing. And if we have time today, I'd be happy to show you some of that. But in the meantime, Poetics as Cosmology. So the notion of this gathering was to allow participants in the different workshops, both Poetics as Cosmology and Life as Rehearsal for the Poem, to talk a little bit about their experience, to talk a little bit about what they see as the difference between sort of conventional poetry and spontaneous composition as described by Charles Olson and Denise Levertov and Brenda Hillman and Nate Mackey and Wanda Coleman and Robert Duncan, Robin Blazer, Sharon Thies and Jack Spicer, yada, 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 yada. So that's what we're going to do. And so I'm just going to open it up, and I sometimes, I don't know what order to put it in. I just kind of go with sometimes who shows up when, sometimes just a gut hunch. But Matt was here first, and Matt serves on the board of the Cascadia Poetics Lab. Yes, Ann.
I just want to say that, I'll be doing a handover with my grandsons returning them to their parents in the course of this. So if you just see my picture for a few minutes, I'll still be able to hear you through my earphones. I haven't gone anywhere.
Good to know. Thank you for the heads up. It's nice when people have Zoom courtesy, which I think is an extension of common courtesy, but it's in the Zoom area. So who knows? There may be a drive-by in the middle of this. I don't know. I don't mean to be flip about that. There was a shooting last night at a nightclub in Colorado Springs. Many people died. Many people were injured critically and may die as a result of that. And it's just a horrible state of affairs.
Colorado Springs, of all places.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Colorado Springs has a very strong fundamentalist element in that town. So
Oh,
who knows? Who knows?
Although what I saw in the Times this morning, it was this was an Islamic fundamentalist that shot up the member. He had self-identified as part of the Islamic State. So,
There you go.
Mm.
Thanks, Matt.
but
Matt,
fundamentalisms of all stripes here in the U.S. and abroad are troubling, to say the least.
Pierre Joris, when he was in town, said, the real enemy is purity. That was his comment about these and related issues. So this notion that something has to be pure and something can be purified or what have you is this. So Matt, why don't you talk a little bit about the subject and maybe read a poem. Diana, I'll get you up next since you have to leave early. Mark Gonerman is back. Ideally, maybe here. So we'll go Matt and Diana and Linda and then go from there. So fire away, man.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I haven't been in the workshops that you've been leading, Paul, but I'm on the board with the Cascadia Poetics Lab. And I've taught a workshop, not through Cascadia, but through the Richard Hugo House in the past, Poet as Radio, which kind of builds off of Jack Spicer and the idea of the poem coming to you as opposed to coming from you. And so it looks at like channeling poetry of different stripes, whether we're looking at like Hua Wen or C.A. Conrad, Nate Mackey. We look at a number of different people, and I mean, starting with Spicer talking about the outside and listening in. I do a lot of stuff with the surrealists and surrealism. So I can, let me see here. I can read from some of my, I'm going to read a piece from my most recent project. And this was a book length kind of, I took like, I'm an astrologer and I took this Saturn Pluto conjunction that happened in January of 2020 and looked at all this source material from times when these two planets were acutely aligned and kind of did these simultaneous poems where I will do 33 poems all at the same time and do them like one line at a time, kind of folding out from the middle and kind of using a divination practice known as bibliomancy, which is came from like mystic schools where people would take something like, say, the Bible or the Quran or some kind of sacred text and kind of let the book open on its own, and then you kind of land on a line to get a message. And so I would do that for all these different lines in the poem, and then at the end I still had I had done 3 sets of 33, and then the first set was lined up with Dante's, kind of lined up alongside Dante's Inferno's cantos, and he had 34 in that one. So I wanted to go back and catch this last canto of his, and it's the one where Dante and Virgil encounter the devil, and so I pulled together a lot of texts that have to do with ideas of the devil, but kind of playing with the notion, kind of this shadow divinity, the goddess cultures that were kind of pushed back into the collective unconscious. And then also lining it up with I pulled in some source material from about the Duwamish River, which I live just on the hill, kind of looking over the Duwamish River. And so I was pulling together a lot of stuff there about the Duwamish tribe and how the tribe's been kind of left out of recognition and kind of erased by the federal government, and it's kind of trying to realign tribal identities through the reservations and now all the casinos and whatnot. So this piece comes from that, and it also, like, a friend of mine, a poet from Colorado, who passed away unexpectedly this last year, Noah Eli Gordon, who also would fit into this whole channeling lineage. I took his books as kind of trying to pay homage to Noah. So the whole thing is called River of the Inside, a missing canto. And all of these are kind of, I did them line by line, but they're put on the page as a prose poem. There is a hill in Tequila that has been preserved for the purpose of telling you a juicy story. We're naive enough not to notice it. Lots of gods, the second-hand time passes straddling the stream known simply as the outlet, a small tributary connecting. The word wild fell down from heaven, and a lot of really tiny creatures, non-charismatic, not easily seen, putting the word eco in front of everything neoliberalism is not. A midway meeting to sell cars. The germ of space is to be found in the mutual, a circular opening in the cave that is anywhere the universe is like one of the lines you draw between the dull mulching civility makes, builds a husk around actual things. There are other ways to talk about where human beings come from, the outdoors.
The dull mulching civility makes, is that what you said?
Yep.
Oh my God, I love that. I was still writing it down when you finished. Oh my God. Real fascinating, Matt. Thanks for that. And the fact that you cited the Duwamish as being erased, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Ghost
And they
in
use the
more ways than one.
excuse. They use the excuse that it's because it's a matrilineal heritage, because the last names were taken on by pioneers of a lot of the women in the tribe after the government held off on actually delivering the land that they promised. And then they turn around and say, well, that means that you gave up your tribal heritage, and use that as a way to not give tribal recognition, and instead to give it to the Muckleshoot, which is not actually a tribe. As Paul, you had that great interview with one of the James Rasmussen, yeah, and it was a reservation that was set up that the government kind of pulled all these other tribes into as a way to kind of erase tribal identity. And of course, it's done a great job, because the Muckleshoot have been helping the government deny tribal recognition for the Duwamish for at least 30 plus years now. So
thanks, Matt. Thanks for giving us the straight dope on that situation. Thanks for coming here. Nice poetry shed you have.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad it's done. I finally have some space to breathe and write. So
everybody needs some kind of poetry shed far out.
So Matt, what have you done with this whole thing you've described? Is this like you have a chapbook? How big is
it's way bigger than a chapbook.
That's what it seems like it would be.
Yeah. So right now I'm probably going to start taking the first 2 sections and sending them out as full-length collections on their own, because they're like close to 70 pages each. They're 33 cantos, but they need a little space to breathe when I put them into Word. They got crammed onto postcards because they were done as part of the Postcard Fest, and so there was a lot of condensation there. But then when they got into Word, they really needed to breathe a bit more. So they're about 60 to 70 pages each. So I'm going to send them out that way. This last one might be a chapbook because I kept that block prose. It's only about 30 to 40 pages. So I'll probably do that as a chapbook. And then when they're all done, I'll probably see if I can find a place to put it all out as one, I mean, I wrote it as one, but because the whole thing is going to be like 300 pages, it's a little hard to find a press to put that out.
Yeah.
Well, you're due for a book, Matt, and it's great to get a little taste of it. And I'm grateful you're here and that you're part of this work. You articulated very well. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Paul.
We're going to go with Diana, then Linda and Anne. And Diana, you were just talking, so why don't you just continue?
So the word that besides bioregional, that I think of as describing what makes this poetics different from others is open. And that's what I've landed on. And I just like the variety of people that I have not been exposed to. I had no idea how conventional my poetry exposure was. I knew it was limited, but I didn't realize how conventional it was until I started taking these classes. And my tastes have really evolved over time. And now that I'm in my early 70s, I think that I am more open. I've got enough life experience to look at a variety of work differently, that in my 20s, I was really judgmental about it all. I mean, it was, I don't know that I came from a real conservative background, but it certainly wasn't artistic or, it was just very conventional, suburban, so on and so forth. So I like the material that Paul makes available, not just the prompts, but all the stimulus that comes with each class. And then Paul's constant, he reminds constantly, he's always sort of setting it's not a boundary, but it's sort of like a reminder. I feel like I'm a salmon who recognizes the smell, right, of this kind of poetry now that has to do with putting yourself in place, making it concrete, focusing on concrete detail that's evocative and rich and challenging. It challenges me to, I've just moved to Southern California from Seattle area, and I grew up in the Intermountain West. So I've been in about every biome you can think up, except for a swamp, as far as living there. And bringing, I've always been aware of this stuff, but I've never wrapped it into my poetry consciously as much as is happening now. So all of that is coming together quite nicely. And I have one of the principles of this is seriality, that like if you're thinking about your being on the planet as a poet and you're taking that real seriously and committing to it, which I've never done. I've just sort of visited poetry periodically and very consistently, but it never occurred to me to make any kind of commitment to it as an art. And that if you make that commitment, you're going to come up with a very, your work is going to change as a result. So I think that's, and I am finding that to be true. And it also helped me justify I have simply lost interest in trying, and not to put them down. This is not about something being better or worse. It's more like what's my own artistic sense about. And I don't care if I ever do a villanelle or a sestina or a guzzle or whatever. I don't, if what I produce begs to be a villanelle, then maybe. But I haven't noticed a lot of begging yet. So I feel like release too from before. I felt like I was on this ladder of, okay, and then you'll have to try one of these. And then, oh my God, you're going to have to do this one. And every time I did, I felt like the work I produced was very, was artificial. It lost its heart because I was trying to force form over content. So that's about what I have to say about the poetics. And I think I'm in my third class now. I've signed up for the next one, and I'm not tired of this stuff yet. I feel also like, I mean, there's some of the people that Paul introduces me to who I reject outright. I just not in terms of saying they're bad, but just like, okay, that just isn't speaking to me. You know, and I set it aside, but I never would have realized I'd become a Wanda Coleman fan, for instance. And she is so LA, although I'm not sure what I mean about that. But anyway, very, very different than stuff I've tended to read in the past. So with that, I will share screen if Paul will let me.
I will now.
Okay, and this is a bit long, but it'll go quickly, I think, and it's called Process of Beach. So I'm experimenting with seriality. We go to the beach a lot, and I'm trying to just let the beach dictate the poem and think of it as a running dialogue, like the ocean's dialogue with the edge of the continent. So here we go. And it's called, creatively enough, The Process of Beach, or not creatively enough. The process of beach, to chase and be chased by the Pacific, the sound of the sea on continent's rim, rooster tails of rip current, seaweed broken loose, sandpipers, gulls, cormorants, grebes, residues of surf foam rising, warming, pelicans skim the waves as if trimming excess foam. 58 degrees today, largest and deepest body of water, twice the size of the Atlantic, covers a third of the earth, warming, rising, surf flat this morning, green flag flying. On the patio, a buzz hum of hummingbird energy, here, gone, then back again, to feed in the nasturtium hibiscus bird of paradise pantry across from the hanging flower baskets we have removed temporarily to thwart the nest shopping doves, parents ourselves. We are unwilling to watch chicks raised and traumatized by our patio traffic, a lesson we learned last year, and they did not. Never chased by the sea or cats, our patio secure as plastic fence can make it, our house not built on an eroding bluff that waits to be ocean taken. Today, saltwater waves lap and shoosh the coast of the oceanside littoral, slap, rush, slam on others, storm dependent, water's edge defined by beaches alternating with canyons, dumping waters sometimes big enough to be called creek and river, all bleed away from the coastal mountains to the Pacific via man-made containment, metal pipes, concrete ditches, curved and sloped ribbons of beach broken by fingers of rock, by the San Clemente Pier jutting out perpendicular, foolish, bold, bolted, piped, and wired on pilings pounded deep. The Spanish village by the sea, this is what San Clemente calls itself. A coastal desert paradise intended for whites only, imitation all the way, white stucco and terracotta tiles, developers making grand mistakes for future developers to expand on. Sand from the beaches that drive the tourism moves down coast as if fleeing to Mexico. We haul in purchased sand by the truckload for beach regeneration as if the beach were a sandbox, as if we had not squeezed to a trickle the delivery of silt, as if we do not before each storm or king tide hire heavy equipment to scrape the sand back from water's edge into giant berms, out of storm or tide reach, we hope. While the mix of on the beach humble and grandiose houses on Beach Road, built before the Coastal Commission said no more, try every engineering trick money can buy, create a dam, dike, wall, bulwark, hodgepodge of metal beams, boulders, wires, and sandbags the size of boulders called sand burritos to keep the ocean off the patios, out of the houses. Stairways to the beach dangle, tipped over, twisted, the coast-hugging railroad tracks now at risk. None of the junk of human engineering works to chase the sea. Sand, the most exploited natural resource in the world after fresh water. Edged by Bluff, Pacific Coast Highway, and the railroad, Capo Beach closes for months again. Storm surge dug under the asphalt parking lot's edge like a scythe bringing down grass. Took the concrete picnic tables dug under the parking lot asphalt, having taken in prior years the restrooms, basketball courts, 40 parking spaces. Oh, to chase the sea and be chased by the sea. Used to be winter reduced, what summer built back, beach never static. Amazon will not deliver beach in a box. We complain about taxes, price of sand, price of gas. On the patio, wood warblers perch at Birdbath's edge, but the newspaper says there are no wood warblers here until just this week, a sighting of one. How are we to know?
My God, that's fabulous. I love that so much. Fantastic. Very interesting. You said Capo Beach, and when I saw the word CAPO, I thought immediately of that little thing people put on guitars to give their fret a shorter length, and
Right,
and
capo, yeah.
yeah. So a beach littered with capos, which I could see people getting rid of the capo forever and throwing them on the beach. But God, I love that.
Yeah,
so much.
capo is actually short for Capistrano.
Ah, very good. Yeah, it feels very epic what you've laid out there. It feels like, you know, like the beginning of Patterson or Lobo or something like that. Very impressive. Yeah. Do you
You
find,
don't think it's boring?
what's that?
You don't think it's boring? I think it's a little bit boring.
No, I think it holds the energy very, very well. And I like the idea of being chased by the beach. I love the environmental consciousness. It feels very much like a poem from the Anthropocene. I mean, you know, we're living in a time in which the environment is, you know, is blowing up in different places. And Graham Walker had this great line, climate breakage, right? And I think yours is exactly in that. Did Carlton just leave the house? He had his hand up and then he left. I thought he wanted.
No,
to
he's here.
I don't
Very
see.
nice poem. I like the line about the pelican and as if fleeing to Mexico, and Amazon won't deliver beach in a box. A lot of great lines here.
Mhm.
That's exactly right. I
Thanks.
mean,
Yeah.
that's exactly, and you know, you look at a line like that Carlton was so astute to pull out. Amazon won't deliver a beach in a box, and it's like that's the answer in a consumer culture. Well, we'll just order it and it'll be delivered to our house. Well, no, the environment won't. That's so fantastic. And it says that's the thing about poetry. It can say so much about so many things in the shortest number of syllables, right? So very wise to point that out, Carlton.
Yeah, and a lot of great kenning in there too, like so that you're bringing and condensing words by bringing them together and making all these compound words. It's really great when you encounter that in a poem because it really pulls the energy and pulls a lot of stuff together in a small space. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Carlton, you have your hand up again? No, just the one time. Sand burritos. Sand burritos. Yeah,
That's what they,
that's what they call them. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
and they don't work, by the way.
yeah, no, and they're not tasty at all, and it's hard to go to the bathroom after you eat one. You know, your notion about the one word being open to describe this poetics is the most astute way to describe it. There's a couple other thoughts I had about what you said. Anne, did you have your hand up?
Well, I know San Clemente. I was just wondering, with the, with the beach washing away like that and the railroad being so threatened, and I know there's also houses built on the tops of very sandy cliffs and stuff. That there must be a lot of dramatic things starting to happen that people just can't ignore. And I just wondered
La, la, la,
how
la, la,
how
la.
how how much realism has actually penetrated through people's minds there. None.
Well, so you have government right now in the form of the Coastal Commission not allowing further
Yeah, I
building.
saw that.
So you have that kind of thing happening, and you also, insurance is getting increasingly expensive. So there are homes on the bluffs that can no longer, unless you're a multimillionaire, just being a millionaire wouldn't do it. You'd have to.
So wouldn't do it. Sand is sand.
Yeah, exactly. And the bluffs are all packed sand.
Yeah,
And old,
exactly.
but no, there's no, there's all kinds of American individualism. It's not all just the redneck Southern style. There's surfer culture is very, libertarian's probably a better word. And that attitude is that it would be fine if you would just leave us alone and let us do what we want, as if nothing that's happening is happening at all. It's until, of course, there's disaster, and then everybody wants the local government to come in and fix things. And there's not enough money to fix this. There is
No, can't rebuild cliffs.
Fantastic, Diane. I love what you're doing with the whole thing. It's really beautiful. It's wonderful to see you get your hands around the sort of shift from conventional to more of a projective thrust. Your poem and project reminds me of a newspaper story that I would have assigned and probably would assign workshop participants to look at, and that is a piece on the Los Angeles River, which for a long time had been the multi-decade project of poet Lewis McAdams, who died a couple of years ago and who I interviewed. So I dropped that link in the chat, and I still reserve the right to put it in the course materials for future workshops like in January. But that's well worth checking out. Poets active in the world and having an effect and showing up after their death in the New York Times because they had this crazy idea that the Los Angeles River shouldn't be just a concrete sewer, and that it was possible to do something different with it. So take a look at that when you get a chance. And thanks for being part of this work, Diana. I appreciate all the work that you're doing as a poet, but also all the work that you do as secretary of the Cascadia Poetics Lab. It's extremely helpful, and it's helping make things go. Thank you.
it's fun.
Far out it's supposed to be. All right, we're going to go Linda Crossfield and Anne Graham Walker. I did a quick nativelands.ca, and I'm on Miwok ancestral homeland here in Danville, California, although I'm from the Duwamish ancestral homeland and the Cedar River watershed, and we'll be there tomorrow. So Linda, you are next. But it would be nice if you turned on your video so we could see you there in your post.
There she is. There she is.
I'm here. Coming to you from the unceded territorial lands of the Sinixt, another group of Native people who government has tried to eliminate, and somewhat unsuccessfully because they keep popping up and going like, wait a minute, we're still here, damn it, Anyway, they get mentioned in the poem I'll read from in a second, but yeah, I just reiterate what Diana said about not just the poetry you expose us to, but all the other very interesting things that sometimes I go, why the hell am I reading this or listening to this or whatever? But there's usually a reason that may not appear immediately, but sooner or later does. And I just really am enjoying these workshops so much, Paul. They're mind expanding, to put it mildly. yeah, so I have been actually late. I'm a micro publisher, and I found myself in a position where I was doing 3 chapbooks at once, which I'll never do again. My poor brain. But anyway, I got them all out the door last week, and so I can sort of calm down again a little bit. But I haven't been doing much writing because I've been doing layout and working with poetry in other ways, which is also very satisfying, I have to say. Yeah, that's also what you were saying, Diana, about just you never know who you're going to become a fan of. Like Wanda Coleman, it's also, I was just blown away by her. And I wasn't familiar with her at all until Paul dropped her into our lives. And I've got the new Brenda book, which I haven't read much of yet, but I've started, and it's pretty amazing. The images within and everything else. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that come January. And I'll read my little poem. I've just got a couple of pages. I'm always working on poems to do with rivers around here, it seems. And this one is called River, How to Relax in the Kootenays. These days, summer smoke hangs heavy, refuses to be moved by copters that dive and dip, scoop water from the Columbia, dive, dip, douse, dive, dip, douse. Hard as it is to extinguish fires, we try, we try, we try. Poor old Columbia, confused by all the dams, confounded by waterfalls gone AWOL, landlocked kokanee trout turn red, batter their way up creeks that feed the Columbia, spawn and die. Anadromous salmon don't come calling anymore, can't make it past concrete walls, which may explain why sometimes the river snaps, grabs a boat or a swimmer, the way a cat pounces on a mouse just to show who's boss. Refuge for sturgeon that can live 100 years or more. Family Acipenseridae, ancient lineage of fish that coexisted with dinosaurs. Here for millennia, the Sinixt fashioned sturgeon nose canoes to navigate rivers, a way in, a dawning. Dreams unravel eddies in a river. Where I live, across the Columbia from Castlegar, Utashenya was once a riverbed. Autumn sun filters through ornamental grasses planted because the man at the nursery promised they can grow in anything. Summer's gone. No more aquatic insects to disrupt nighttime reading. Mayflies, Ephemeroptera, also known as shadflies, fish flies, sandflies, dayflies. Fish love them. Anglers try to imitate. Vie to tie most likely flies. The river moths, Trichoptera, caddis flies, sedge flies, rail flies, their presence speaks to robust health of the river they hatch in. Live their 28 days in the vicinity of, attracted to light, the dead litter porches beneath light bulbs that stink of them when hot. Once, when he was getting work ready for an art show, George Kuchin tied a canvas on the front of his car, drove by the Columbia at dusk when caddisflies were hatching. Bodies stuck, kamikaze art in the Kootenays. What to call the particular blue-green of the Columbia in October? I should have taken one of John Cooper's color theory classes. He was master of Kootenai color. One time he was planning a trip to Costa Rica, him and a bunch of his students, full payment due in a couple of days. After the travel agency where I worked was closed for the weekend, I ran into him at Art Walk. He'd rounded up the money, pressed it into my hands, several $1,000s in a tattered envelope, said not to worry when I started in about needing to write him a receipt. The money made it safely back to the office. The trip worked out just like he said it would, a lesson in how to relax in the Kootenays.
Oh, I love hearing that again. Fantastic. And the light bulbs stink. Ah, oh man, there were mayflies in Chicago around Lake Michigan, but I think they disappeared probably by the time I was 10. They had some by the Stuck River, but the fact that they're an indicator, yeah, that's good information. And Carla Stein, I love the research contained in this, absolutely, and how it comes, how to take that research and make it make a poem out of it. That Joanne Kiger piece on H.P. Blavatsky, I think, is a very good example. And yeah, that's among the beautiful work. Thanks,
Okay.
Linda.
Thank you.
Grateful you're here. We're going to go to Anne Graham Walker, and then Carlton, and then Emily, and then Carla. And Anne,
Okay, I was just trying to unmute myself.
you've done it.
So you couldn't hear me chatting to my grandsons. Yeah, hi everybody. Nice to see people that I know, but also to meet new people. And thanks for doing this, Paul. You wanted us to talk about the classes. Is that what you wanted us to talk about?
Yeah, you had a lovely blurb.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you can read that on the webpage. I did have a blurb. I don't have it in front of me. My name is Anne Graham Walker. I live on Vancouver Island, in the unceded territory of the Snaunawas Nation. Kind of rural where I live. I've never lived in a rural place before, but now I've actually been here 20 years. So I think I've sort of become a kind of a woods person. I think I've always written this way, spontaneous verse, because it's the only way I know how to write, which is kind of unfortunate. Because it's great when poems come to you, and then it's terrible when poems don't. Sometimes it's in the middle of the night, I wake up to pee, and then I realize I've got something to write down, or if I'm walking or hiking or something like that. And what I like about the class is that, given that it is kind of isolated here, and we've just gone through COVID, I really love, well, first of all, I love the community, but I love that the way Paul gives us, he gives us things to think about, all kinds of things to think about with each assignment. It may be, sometimes my poem doesn't actually come very often out of the written assignment. It might come out of something in the reading, or something in the poetry, one of the poems that I've just read. So, it's very adult in that you can kind of choose how it's going to inspire you. And I really like that, because I've done a lot of poetry workshops, and I think I'm at a stage now where I really kind of like that adult level of choice, where I don't actually have homework. I can just let the material inspire me, however it chooses to do that. And sometimes it doesn't seem like what I've written has anything to do with the assignment at all. And nobody gets mad if that happens, which is great.
But that is why you got to be in the course.
Yeah, that's why I got to be.
I have the blurb if you want to see it.
Sure, yeah, you can put my blurb up, this blurb, I didn't set out to write a blurb to Paul. This was my thank you note to him after the last class, which he asked if he could keep. So why don't you read it, Paul? Because you know me and reading text.
I think you can take a lot of credit for the fact.
Sorry about that. My daughter's in San Francisco and she was trying to check in, but I'll turn that off.
I think you take a lot of credit for the fact that people were inspired to do great work in the class. There is something about the model that really works. You give people inspiring prompts and fire them up. But the group is not a class, really, and that is good. In a class, people are children, and that is sort of paralyzing. It is more of an organic community of equals, so people are constantly getting inspired by each other. It is supportive, not competitive, and non-hierarchical. And you have an amazing capacity to listen to each person. I enjoy the workshops and the family, but most important, I keep coming back because the classes and the rich poetry community you have created keep me writing.
Yeah, and that's true. I'm just going to tell my husband to pick the phone up because it's my daughter checking in from San Francisco. Can you just give me just 1 second?
Well, sure, why not?
No,
And
let's only take a second because my husband, oh,
give us a
he did
piece of-
pick it up. That's good. No, he's terrible for not picking up the phone, but he must have sensed it because he did pick it up.
good
So
for
we're
you.
good. Yeah, my daughter, all my children are in the Bay Area right now. California, my Canadian daughter just flew down to the States for American Thanksgiving. So the 3 siblings are having a sibling fest, which is nice. What I'm going to read is, yeah, that's the other thing is how we get introduced to poets. So I don't think I would have found Wanda Coleman on my own. And what I really liked was the idea of writing 12-line poems. Sometimes that's all I have time for. And it seems like, and I do like kind of being concise. I'm a journalist. And, without actually writing form poetry, it's just a challenge that I like. Like, what can I say in 4 lines? And and she says a lot in 4 lines, and I don't pretend that what I wrote in any way is merely inspired by her, but she did inspire me to write a series. Oh, and the other thing that inspired me was that Paul was talking to Pierre Joris, who talked about poets as nomads. And I am very much a nomad, like because of my dad's job in the film industry. I grew up in South America, and then I lived in Argentina, and then I went to college in the States, and then I moved to Canada. So I am a total nomad. I'm very happy to be in this place that I've lived in now for 20 years, in this watershed, which is great, because it's not like a country, it's nature. But in terms of like places and countries and stuff, they actually don't really make sense to me because of how I grew up. So so I was inspired by that to write my Nomad series. Whoops. Way back? Yeah, sorry, I pressed the off button. So this is the Nomad series, and it's 5 12-line poems. I think those are called American sonnets, right? Oh, Paul, you have it. I just sent it to you. It just says, this is the poem I'm going to read.
Okay, I will pull it up on a Word document and I will share a screen, and then I will promise to go slow so that.
Oh, actually, I have a paper copy, so
You have
I'm
a
good.
paper copy. All right, well, so now I can
Yeah.
go at my own pace, and I am ready as of now. I hope everyone can see it. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Girl by the mudshine, sun-bronzed El Rio. Not hers, but the only river she knew. What if it was the only river she knew at 9, not yet a dinged hubcap, careening, nomadic? She was still in her first country. Could she color that Rio her own, growing up Argentina, though her parents grew up Nebraskan? In the girl's primary reader, a picture of Evita. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. 2. My river funneled the Paraná and the Uruguay, muddied the bottle green Atlantic, flaunting a silver name, El Rio de la Plata. My mother's river, the Platte River, its hips wide and shallow, flowed deep inland in a country named for the buffaloes white men exterminated. Plata, Platte, silvers each in their own separate hemisphere. Right now, the 2 rivers breathe a twisted equanimity, climate breakage, swamps, geographic barriers. 3. 2 hemispheres, north, south, 2 minds, at least 2 nations and anthems to sing. Mother didn't grow up thinking and speaking in Spanish like I did. She wanted me to know what nation I belonged to. It was not the one I lived in or the next country we moved to. For her, nation, a singular noun. For me, ship journeys, the star change at the equator, first glimpse of the Southern Cross. Spelled typo there, sorry. 4. The girl and the mother shared a love, Coca-Cola, a comfort to the mother wherever her husband was posted. Coca-Cola, her bright red, her happy, silvery soda fountains and safe Nebraska towns lined with elm trees. If her daughter loves Coca-Cola, she might find America. Her zigzag blonde curls don't look Argentine anyway. 5. Wide river, bronze-fired, como si fuera mi país. Me squinting blue-eyed as my body pulled downwards, speeding down the barrancas. A little brick train station there. Someone we were greeting, my Argentine nanny and me. Such a fullness in that moment, in the force of the steep, in the steam of the locomotive, the river bulging its banks, not like the paper-dry Mississippi 2022, emptied of memory, live boats.
Wonderful, really wonderful.
Does everybody understand live boats? You know, they actually found old boats, very old boats in the bottom because the river emptied out and they found these really, really old boats in the bottom of the river. But the real boats, the live boats with people in them, couldn't sail down anymore.
The Mississippi,
Yeah, this summer.
because of the drought, right?
Yeah.
Lots of other things they found, and islands they were able to walk to.
Yeah.
That in the past, they had to at least take a rowboat to. Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely. Very, very much also an and you know, I was going to say very much an Anthropocene poem. And then you have that phrase climate breakage, which I think is fantastic. I mean, I just love how succinct that is to describe it. Because if you talk about global warming, as Mark Gonerman will attest, people can say, oh, well, no, it's not warming. It was 30 degrees last night. It's not warm at all. But if you say climate breakage and then put a video of the Buffalo Bills football stadium under 6 feet of snow, maybe they get it then. Who knows?
There's lots of broken things.
Broken things. Yeah, I love that Ingrid pointed out plet and plata.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Plata and plata.
Those are the kinds of things that are in your personal mythology, and that's making a song of it. That's bringing
Well,
up a song of anything, and just a wonderful example.
yeah, well, I think what the sonnets did for me there was it gave me, is this what you call, it gave me an opportunity to sort of explore my own cosmology in short little snapshots.
Yeah, the bursts. They're nice. There's nice little bursts. Far out, Anne. I'm going to move on.
Thank you.
I'm grateful that you're here, and we're going to go. Did I say this, Carlton, Emily, and Carla? And thanks for being part of this work, Anne.
I'm going to say goodbye to my grandkids now.
All right. Carlton, it's up to you. He's probably emailing me his piece. I don't know. Did you send that? I don't see that yet, but or maybe he's going to put it through his.
He just motioned 1 minute, so.
Okay. I was looking to see if the email had come. All right, 1 minute. I did enjoy that close-up of your fingernails because I very much appreciate whatever manicurist you have and the fact that you resist the temptation of cuticles that I can't seem to resist. So anyway, yeah, it'd be nice. I love it when your machine had a British accent. That was a highlight for me. And then sometimes it's emailed, so I'm kind of vigilant about looking at my email. But of course, it's Best Western Wi-Fi, and not sure how good that is exactly.
Give me a moment.
I shall. Carlton is in Orlando, Florida. Remnants of Hurricane Ian still visible there as it cut through the state. When I lived in Florida, it was Hurricane Bob, which doesn't, bring fear into your heart when it's a hurricane named Bob, but it can do damage, I suppose.
come back to me. Or
All
you
right.
can come back to me.
Okay, we'll swap you and Emily then. And Emily, you ready to rock?
Yeah, no worries. So, so I'm Emily. I live in Winnetka, Illinois, but I lived for a long time in Seattle. And let's see. So for me, I would say I came to this because I've read and enjoy a lot of conventional poetry. I'm a little bit of I'm inclusive, like it all. But I did want to expand my horizons a little bit. And I also find that, you know, I've liked the people that participate in these workshops, see the innate curiosity about them. And so it's enjoyable that we keep yeah, and reading authors, I find through other people's eyes is also really interesting. By yourself, you're really only getting your own impression of as a group. Other people bring their joy and experiences to it, and I think that's really important and nice. And for me, sort of if I take a conventional poetry workshop, I'm a little bit strange and out there, and then I'm a little bit conventional when it comes to spontaneous poetry. So what I found is that I mostly write like myself, whatever, you know, whatever workshop I'm in. So there you go. I had one, but I've actually added another one. I'll go through just because I called it up and wasn't written in this one, but we can read this quick one first. It's a little strange poem because it brought up some of the stuff we were talking about today. Anne, is that good, Anne? Let's see.
That's good. Move it down a little bit so we can see the top of it.
All right.
There we go.
All right. Reversible. The clock strikes. The guards turn into gourds, dying on the vine. We check our watches. By 11, we are mixed in a metaphor. The price of avocado doubles, and we become nervous about lunch. On 9, we form a campaign to deny time. Chime, clock, tick, and talk. It is a bothersome noise. The clock strikes, and we reflect gratefully upon the vastness of Earth's history. On 5, we merely admire our gown and offer a cartoon smile to some passing prince. On 4, we tell everyone not to panic, stay in your cars, take a vacation. On 3, we begin to feel the heat. The clock strikes and we cannot hear it for the earbuds crowding the traffic, rumbling the jackhammer, making its steady progress. The clock strikes and we think to ourselves, how were we to know? So, I thought that one, let me see. And can you guys see this one too?
Right
Or
now,
did it not switch?
we're still on reversibles. So
All
let-
right, hold
let me-
on.
let me do this. Let me stop the sharing. And then when you reshare, it'll be the right one that you
Yeah, I've
want.
never quite figured out how to do that if it's not hooked up. And this is just one of the ones from class with a temporary title because I haven't thought of a better one. Heart first for Wanda Coleman. Now at rest, after all your beautiful striving, creating claws from the dull weight of a pen, hallucinations of joyous love wishes, soul breaking world, writing myth upon myth. It'll get better, just wait. Yet you are gone. Nights are still blue, black, and fierce, ruination and defiance, so much like you.
Wow. Wanda would have loved that poem. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it feels like you captured her. Well done.
You know, I interned at WXRT in Chicago when I was a college student. And John Mervos was the music director for a while. And he said, it's okay to play music you like as long as what you like is good. And, you know, that's, I mean, it's okay to teach people you like or had a friendship with as long as they're bringing it. And Wanda did. And I could see through Wanda how you were able to steal a bit of her fire and offer it back to her. When Pierre Joris in Seattle at Seattle University talked about having an infinite debt to Paul Celan, it struck me, you know, of all the people I have a debt to, and Wanda included among those. So to be able to present her and then to see things like that is just, it just really hits me in a very, very powerful way. So thank you for that. Far out. I'm glad you're part of this work, Emily. Sorry the Bears lost today. I know you care about that a great deal. I was watching it. Oh well, they're coming back. All right, we'll go now from Winnetka to Orlando, Florida. Carlton, if you could pop back in and give us what you got. Also like the time poem, like a couple of people pointed out in the chat. Fantastic. We are mixed in a metaphor. Yeah, both poems great, as Ingrid says. All right, Carl.
Oops, sound is gone.
He's unmuted, so he's coming. And then
Oh.
it'll be Carla and Barbara and Ingrid and Mark. And Adelia is, she hasn't shown her face yet, but I suspect she is lurking and maybe doing last minute preparations for her ancestral gallery show, the family show on Salt Spring Island, which we'll be attending.
I sent it to you,
Oh, you did.
Paul.
Okay, let me dig. Oh, it's an email. All right, here we go. Okay, here we go. Now the radio guy must be channeled. So let me just share screen and hit the inbox. And there we go. And Adelia's in the house. Okay, here, and I gotta move this over a little bit and then get the folks. Can I do this? Yeah. Oh, okay, here we go. Dear everyone, I'm grateful to have been introduced to Paul and the rest of the classmates. I've greatly appreciated learning more about the craft of poetry. In spite of my health difficulties, Paul's workshops have been a ray of tangerine sunshine on my hurricane-battered days. I have enjoyed reading Wanda Coleman, and I'm now into Brenda Hillman. Here's a piece written as a result of a Paul workshop, Carlton. Here is my attempt at a pharaoh pastoral. Not to be confused with a feral pastoral, which will be next semester. Beneath my feet is the name of the poem. Sand and more sandy soil, glass, ancestors and progeny. This sand, Mayaka, fine sand, ground from an abundance of cream-colored bits of gravel and palm trees and aggregates of swamp and marsh, cool winters and harsh summers. It is often said of Florida that there is no there, but tell that to the people who were here before the Spaniards invaded the lands of the Seminole, the Miccosukee, the Pensacola, the Appalachee, the Timucua, the Potano, the Tocobaga, the Miami, the Calusa, the Tequesta, and the Matacumbe were still floating down the river of light, who were all here using sand and soil, the flora and the fauna, the earth, air, fire, and water long before Juan Ponce de Leon landed here, searching for the fountain of youth. That grass out there beneath my feet is rich with Mayaca sand soil, as saw palmettos and hibiscus and loblolly pines grow here too. The state soil of Florida. Mayaca fine sand is ageless, timeless. This sand here before the Spaniards found Florida and its many riches. No gold or silver, no El Dorado, but treasures still want to be found. Oh, pulled that one out, the Pharaoh Pastoral. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful work and some great some great line breaks. Here it is, the one that kind of hit me. Ground from an abundance of cream colored bits of gravel and palm trees. Sam Hamill told me that you can really tell if a poet has an ear by their line breaks. And just look at the way that movie in our head that all this was milk and all of a sudden that was a descriptor. That's that kind of stuff. Just I love it so much. That's your check-in, Carlton. All right. Nice work, brother. It's good to have you here. Thanks for being part of this work. I hope you're enjoying Brenda. Okay. I'm going to go to Carla and then Barbara, Ingrid, Mark, and Adelia. Unless Carlton has the last word. Carlton, do you have one last thing? Are you good? He's good. Carla, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for doing this, Paul. This is really it's inspiring to see what everyone has done with, you know, and how many different directions people have gone into from the same material that we've been learning about through the workshops that you've been giving, and people have made it their own. And you know, it's wonderful. I have to say that your poetry poetics as cosmology, to get the title correct, was really a jumping off point for me to be thinking differently about letting myself write what I wanted to write rather than what I thought I should be writing. I've been writing poetry for a long time and was exposed to a fair bit of poetry through university classes and all that good stuff that everybody here I'm sure can identify with, and thinking about form poetry and about whether or not whether you were doing something was correct or incorrect, you know, and always having that kind of self-censoring kind of nonsense in the back of your head while you're writing, and then revising and revising and revising. And it was just really freeing to be introduced to Charles Olson and the idea of spontaneous composition in particular, and to Ed Saunders, and the idea of seriality and research and just letting yourself go with wherever the work was going to take you rather than you trying to take the work somewhere, if that makes sense. So it's been just a really wonderful journey for me. And I have to thank you for encouraging me to explore seriality more. And in fact, I have done that, and have started a series that is tentatively at this point called Gather the Grandmothers, which focuses on the conjunctions between women, how women are treated, how women have been treated over historically different contexts, and how more than human peoples on our planet, be they trees, animals, vegetables, etc., how they're treated and the similarities between the two. And that's involved a lot of research. And it's been really, really wonderful to do that. So at this point, 3 of the poems have been published out of that series. And it's evolved into a 3-part series where the first part will be exploring those conjunctions, but then the second part exploring the history of our grandmothers in the environmental movement. And then the third part is about dreams, and how that liminality inspires everything that we do, and being free to enter that liminality. So that's kind of where things are going at this point. So and I have to apologize for not getting back to you. Paul was kind enough to read a couple of the poems that are coming out of this series that I emailed to him. And I've gotten so many emails in the last little while that I'm dealing with, because I'm also involved in our local literary organization here, WordStorm, and we've had a lot of stuff going on. And then there's all kinds of nonsense personally, home renovations and other things going on, that I actually didn't scroll down and read your last email about not having responded to your comments about my poems. And I thought I had responded. So, so my apologies for not doing that.
I'm used to people not responding when I say your poem is shit. Don't come back here. But when I like it, I kind of expect thanks. No, but it's no.
So,
It's not a
so
big deal.
yeah,
I'm
so I
very-
really
I'm
appreciate
relieved that
comments.
it
And
wasn't something I said because it's often.
no, no,
Often
not
something
totally. No, I just actually just didn't scroll down past the Zoom link, and I thought I had responded to your poems. Sorry, to your comments. So mea culpa.
No. I think you ought to share what we're talking about so people can get a sense that I was telling them.
Sure. So this is one of the, this is the poem. I'm going to read two of the poems that have been published out of this series, and they're both from the first part of what will hopefully become a complete manuscript very shortly. This is the one that I sent to Paul. It's called Allegory, and it's in two parts. Part one. Virtuoso tales tell us every beginning is wrong. Only the hag is holy. Only the journey is right. Unnoticed, abuelas map intuition, judge, heal, demand restitution, wade through the journey, stories of reward, philosophies in dorsal fins. Baba Yaga loans her power, smells the wrongness in beginnings, plumbs primordial depths, hears the missteps, sees limbs falter. She walks here, stands there, leaps into a yet to be. There is no dread. Ellie, crone in the north, no longer bleeds, keeps her wisdom within desiccated thighs, transforms aired beginnings, connects to the great cycle where moonwalkers, witches, waxing, full, waning, breed the next legends, full of cork neck questions, leave footprints in oral sagas, no polite noni, no cannoli and tea, anger slips her sweetened leash. Here, Hestia sinks roots in a bare-faced realm. Persephone, Demeter, Hecate, genius in the seed, the grain, the fallow field. The bruja asks you, remember when you were a tree frog? Vela prompts, remember when you were a horse? Kuore prompts at your nose, laughs, remember when you were a whippoorwill? Vecchia reminds, remember when you forgot you were the horse? The frog, the bird? Ah, sighs Kroon. When you were a tree frog, you stuck out your tongue, cast for houseflies, and the souls of spiders gulped great vats of air, snuggled your sunburned arms around a maple trunk. Kuya purses wrinkled lips. When you were a whippoorwill, your song flew in a dusk-drenched sky. You danced a bedtime jig, eyes searching for the evening star. Strega nods her impatience. When you were a horse, dust chased your hooves, grass kissed your teeth, and the wind was your sister. Part two, she-wolves, beldames, gammers, a horror of rooks circle, mistresses of cunning, collective memories, 1,000 doors are locked, keys litter the path. Atmospheric tinctures flavor, breath roams somatic structures, begins as amphioxus, grows spines, becomes fish who crawl, becomes a storm of vertebrae, connects to a maenad's digits. Do lingcod commune, fathom water, consult with manatee hags, sea witches? Do purple scarfish, red rock crabs gossip with algae blooms, kelp forests? I ask questions of ghosts who swim in my lymph. What fish were you? Did your mouth suck or chew? When did you lose your fins, grow legs? Why did you not gift me gills? Ah, vecchia scoffs, no longer invisible. Now you want our sight. Now you seek us out. Cuore mutters, we tried to tell you, whippoorwill.
I love Ingrid's comments about the richness of the different names. And, you know, when you have the luminous details in there, those fields, the fields that they emanate are part of the, you know, the whole kind of energy vortex that the poem is, and the storm of vertebrae, which I just love. Did I get that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much.
And
Fantastic.
then the second one is called Caldera. The ones who spoke with firstborn oaks, cherished yarrow, gathered goldenrod, brewed chamomile, lemon balm, Tatik bedtime stories mix screams and ash with skin and fat, smolder on sandalwood pyres, and incense faint with roses and wrinkles, adrift upon unwritten nightmares. Eons spill brujas martyred, maimed, atoms quicken, oak leaves to immortal embers. Their kin in primeval bellies gush pyroclastics, bubble igneous blood, give form to obsidian lineages. Granite lives hewn, harrowed in ignorance, mix in the hard sweat of a fevered planet. Etna, Erebus, Sakejamura, recite burnt bone parables. Merapi hisses deeply. Amniotic fluid boils, rises in suffocating pans. Kilauea leaches roses and wrinkles, fractures geography, rebuilds the world.
World building, indeed, indeed. That's a perfect place to end up on. I think that's what we're doing as poets. We're building a soul, we're building a world, and you nailed it. Thank you. Thanks for being part of this work, Carla.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing that. And I just want to mention, if I can, Paul, that when you were talking earlier about a publication that will be coming out of Cascadia Poetry Lab, Wordstorm also has a publication that is currently accepting submissions. You can go to our website. I'll put it in the chat. Submissions are open until December 31st, and anyone from Vancouver Island or the Salish Sea Basin, which includes Seattle and all of the folks up and down the coast. Unfortunately, we can't go as far south as California because we're trying to stay somewhat regional, but I really encourage folks to submit to it. It'll be our second issue, and you can see our first issue on the website as well. So I hope that we'll see some submissions from folks who are here today.
Is there a theme that?
No, this time around there is no theme. So whatever you would like to send us, we would love to see. You're welcome to submit poetry, creative nonfiction, short stories, or visual art. And please submit visual art because we haven't gotten any submissions for that yet. So we'd love to see that as well.
So for people who make their own postcards, here's an opportunity for that. Beautiful, Carla. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Barbara, then Ingrid, then Adelia, as Mark has left the building. Barbara, welcome. You've set the record for number of cats in a single shot in a Zoom.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No.
So I hesitated coming today because I don't have a poem to share, but I have so enjoyed the workshop that you've offered, Paul, that I just went ahead and let me come anyway. So I have been an appreciator, and just as with the workshops where, yeah, I've met a lot of poets I'd never come across before. This is even better to meet some poets in person via Zoom and to hear you reading your poems. Oops, there she goes. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Next time, maybe.
You're not going to read your tribe poem?
No, nothing. I just I scarcely have my wits about me. But so I'll let you move on to the next one, but please know how much I've been enjoying this.
All right. Well, Barbara, you're really the source of this whole thing, because you were the one who suggested I reach out to For Culture, and it worked out swimmingly. And if it turns into Cascadia Poetry Fest at Beach Park Events Center in May of 2024, you will have really butterfly affected. Can I do that? You've really
Well-
set the butterfly effect in motion, is what I want to say. Or maybe it's the mayfly. I'm not sure.
Then I'd expect everybody to come and we can all break bread together.
Amen. Thanks, Barbara. Give Dan my best. You know, he said he was going to pick us up at the airport tomorrow. You heard that? Yeah. Okay. There's hoops in the equation for him, so he's got an ulterior motive, but it's okay. All right. So we've got Ingrid and Adelia. And Ingrid, did you get hammered by the snowstorm that hit Buffalo, or were you able to emerge?
No, we don't have those 6 feet of snow because we're down in Pennsylvania. We're on the coast, but down further. We got snow. It's been cold here. We've had our first freeze, but that's about all. It's been unusually hot here. It just didn't feel like, until this Buffalo snowstorm, it didn't even feel like winter. And finally that's pushed down, so it's winter here now. I've loved the 3 years of life as the rehearsal for a poem. I like short forms, and I like short poems. I think in part because I'm so wordy. And so it was like a way to counter that. But you got to expand yourself too. And Paul and all the people that are in our class, they expand me all the time. I mean, I'm just grateful to be around the poetry that these women and men produce. It's a lot of fun, and it's helped me grow. I in that interest that I came to Paul with nature's like a base, and a lot of the issues that you talk about are nature going awry because of man's intervention. I mean, we've got real problems on this planet, and how other people address it in literature and art, so that the news gets out and maybe people care and maybe they do something about it. It's a consciousness raiser, which is a good thing, this cosmology building, I think. I've enjoyed all of the 3 years that I've been here, Paul, every single one of them. I picked out 3 really short poems. Each is like a paragraph long because I don't write long poems. And I picked ones that were published in Rehearsal, which is another poetry community, but it's online. And the first one was when you gave us that reading assignment about Toko Shinato, because she died at 107.
Yeah.
So that's the first one I'll read. Toko Shinato's art, calligraphy, falls off her brush, art beat, heartbeat, art treasure, red blood on legs, black wings beat void, bird art, lines flap, lines tangle, lines diverge, ancient, red, energy, modern, black box, stroke up, stroke down, stroke stops. Cheyenne lives to 107. Last year's seed pod, brown bare branch, a thrush sings. That was in memoriam, and I guess they liked it enough at least to publish it. Then what I did last year with your postcards that I've been doing for 5 or maybe 6 years now, I took cosmology as the theme, and I took the themes that you've been giving us and the writers that you've been giving us, and I wrote postcards. And so Verse Virtual also in November, which is this month, they did 2 of my postcard poems. So I'm going to end with those. because like it was like you introduced us to Gary Snyder, and the zen of him, it really touches me. And because that nature, the way that he says it, like you want to be more spontaneous, and I want to be more spontaneous, and I wrote in my own writing that he all year long writes a poem while he's working. He doesn't write the poem until December when he's resting. It incubates. And so all of these incredible readings that you give us to do, to me, they incubate and they hatch out in like little poems. And it's really a lot of fun. Postcard poems, good size for me. Anyway, here were two of the postcard poems, and I'll end with those. Think small. After Gary Snyder's meditation walk practice, a Zen Buddhist priest and poet has a problem with altitude. His mind empties and opens when he takes a meditation walk. In silence, he stops to observe and study. Unaware, he sinks in gauze. The soft walker surrenders to quiet. Soon he's up to his knees. He sings details in fog song. Suddenly a crack appears in the haze. He leans closer to study its radiance and falls through into the blue. That's one poem. And then another is this quote by Gary Snyder that means a lot to me. Nature is not a place to visit, it's home. Nature is home to poet Gary Snyder. This Buddhist priest meditates to the rhythm of seasons, tends a garden in summer, cuts wood to burn in winter, repairs his house and sheds, manages and restores his land. Poetry grows in his head. He works in the earth. Words keep company with labor, sun, and storm. And dark winter, he harvests the year's writing. And that's the end of the poem. But anyway, it's to say thank you back to you and to all the poets, because you enrich me so much. So thank you, all you friendly faces and new ones too. I missed Adelia, and we get to start. We get to end with her. Yay, Adelia. Yay, Paul. Yay, Dan. Yay, 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 yay to all of you.
Oh, yay, Ingrid. That was so lovely to hear you read. I've really missed our Sunday night group, and it's been, well, just listening to you now, I was just closing my eyes. I'm sitting in my car. I'm really a gypsy today, and just closed my eyes and just went, oh, wow, wow, where's she taking me? What a beautiful world. So you're diving in deep, and it's just so lovely to hear. So thank you. Thank you for that.
I also wanted to say that just the way the poem overtakes her and she is totally into it is just such a joy to experience. Fantastic.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. We go with you, Ingrid. When you dive and a poem takes you, it's taking us too. And I could really feel that. That was really, really special. And everyone else's work too, just listening to hearing Carla after a long time, and Linda, I'm probably forgetting some, listening to Emily, who we haven't met, but I liked what you had to say. Yeah, I'm missing someone, I'm sure, but everybody has been, Carl, of course, how could I forget? Really, really great. Just wow, what everybody's doing is so cool. And I have missed, as I said, these classes, these Sunday night classes, which framed my life in such a beautiful way and brought me to new frontiers of poetics each week. And also what Anne spoke to, which is that experience of sharing what other people's responses to the same reading that you're doing. So it becomes a forum. You're not just on your own, heading out there as so often. Not that I mind being alone with my work. I love it actually when I'm composing, but when I'm thinking about other stuff, it's really fun to be able to share it. And also a big thing for me is hearing how everybody's work is developing and progressing because of this exposure, because they're writing and carrying on. And wow, just so nice. And so, yeah. So Paul, I sent you, I don't know which email address to use these days. So I sent to Pen at Cascadia Poetics Lab. I think that's your best one, your preferred right now. And I sent you two, and the second one shows a poster for a reading at my an art show that's been hung in Salt Spring. I'm excited because Paul's gonna, and Bhakti are coming up, and Jason and Elizabeth to be part of this. And that first poster shows the show in its entirety. Do you see it, Paul? In that second email, I attached it. You might want to share screen. Yeah, this is a show that I put together with my cousin, and there are a lot of paintings that my great grandmother did and her father, but we got into these archival photographs and have blown them up 3 by 3 and also made some big panels in the windows just to highlight the work. And then I embedded some of my poems in the panels, which has been really fun. Like my poems have taken up residence on Salt Spring in the center, which is very exciting. And any of I think Anne might be coming. I hope so, if it doesn't snow, and maybe some others from Vancouver Island. Everyone who is welcome. Of course, it's a distance for most of you, but at least to know it will be happening. And then the other poster, if you want to share that one, Paul, which is the one for this event coming up. It's got the cover. I did a little chapbook too. If you got do you see it, Paul? It's the second attachment on the second email, yeah. So this is just a detail from a corrupted archival photograph, but I think the effect is really gorgeous. And I've borrowed it for the copy of my chapbook, and so just wanted to show you that. And then the next part is I want to read a poem, the act of putting together this chapbook, which is just some excerpts from my work. Oh, I've lost, sorry, I'm on my phone, which is a little bit weird. Did I lose you? Still there?
No, I'm still
good.
here, and I'm poised with the share screen button.
Yay, okay. Do you want to share this poem? It's the last poem in the chapbook. It's been an odyssey of writing about the land that my great grandparents first moved onto in 1905. And I did a deep dive onto that, which is, the Ed Saunders immersion. And it's been a few years, this project. And this is the last one that I wrote. It's kind of a quasi essay poem, which I think brings us to a place of reconciliation after traveling into other realms. And this isn't, so I'll read the poem if you want to share it, Paul. And the title is Wakum, Salt Spring Island, October 2022. And Wakum, well, I'll explain what the word means. I'm probably not doing it justice. It's a Sinchatan word. It would probably be more Wakum, which would be the original name of a bay on a tract of land that has been purchased and to be preserved on Salt Spring Island, and is a place where events that are focused on reconciliation take place. And so I'll just read. And as I said, this is part essay, part poem. Wachum, Salt Spring Island, October 2022. The Cowichan elder who's giving a talk and doing a ceremony today is called Robert George. His Hulkaminum name is Huyahut. Saying the elder's name is hard for my tongue and throat. The H in the last part is guttural, an owl hoot mixed with a bear grunt. My tongue needs to mimic a root. He said it doesn't mean anything, just a name he got from his great-grandfathers when he was 16. I remember Startlip poet Kevin Paul's story that his parents told him of how the elders got the names of the trees from the trees themselves. And I wonder if the forest can still give names to the people when it has been scarred. When Huahum, Huyahut, oh, I gotta practice before I read again. Quahoot speaks Hulkaminum to all of us, his words feathered and furred, taste of river. They beat against the air and hum as they slip through time. They rise with the tails of mist into the latticework of veils that crisscross the flanks of Huetmutsum, the mountain most of us call Mount Maxwell. I feel the forest suddenly listening, needles alert, bark and roots awake. The birds that called while he talked were pileated woodpecker, a raven, and a pair of kingfishers that were flying around Burgoyne Bay. The bay's original name, Huachum, is the Senchaflin word for a female merganser. Quahoot asks us all to walk through an archway made of cedar boughs, from which he's hung a blue mask that shows him when he lost his identity as a residential school in Duncan. He'd like us to pass under the archway and then say our names before being cleansed with more cedar boughs and welcome to the land. After we've all done the ceremony, someone asks him why he wanted to do this. He says he doesn't want any more visitors to the land. The first visitors who came to this land asked for advice, and the second wave too, but then the third wave came and no one asked anymore. So better that no one feels like a visitor. It's better for us just to be here on the land. He tells a story of boys in winter chasing icicles down the Cowichan River, how the elders would call the boys up to be in a field with them, to make whips out of grass and wave them around their heads to create a whistling sound, to call down a red-breasted merganser or a widgeon. In my great-grandmother Maud's photographs of the Cowichan Tennis Club, the second oldest one in the continent, everyone is dressed in tennis white and laughing. My grandmother among them, her future daughter-in-law. She has long dark hair and a face like a daisy petal. On the way back from the funky outhouse behind the barn, a woman's colorful umbrella is a mandala against the backdrop of mist hovering over the water. Later, my cousin Bryony pulls out her Senchaflin dictionary, many years in the making, a language closely related to Hulkaminum, but spoken by the nations further south. And here on Salt Spring Island, the book is as wide as the annotated Oxford Dictionary my father borrowed from me to hold up his computer screen. Look, she says, so many more words for friendship and helping than we have. I have to believe that, like the raven, we are flying from all points into the heart of one being. So there we are.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry, Anne, I'll let you speak.
I think I met this man. I think he was very active in organizing those village projects. If he's the man I'm thinking, I'm just so glad you've written about him. He's just his work for reconciliation is just so inspiring. It's beyond words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the genius in that ceremony that he put together.
Yeah.
You know, the simplicity of his answers, and I thought about
and
it.
what he said about no more visitors.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Let's just arrive here. Let's just become indigenous to this land. People here. And it's interesting because I wrote about the blue mask. I took a picture of it, and then when I was writing about it, I went, "Oh, of course!" Even though he hadn't said it. But that arc of going underneath the archway that had his blue mask attached, that was symbolized him losing his identity. He was saying, go ahead, lose your identity too, and come back as being on the land. Like it was more than we knew to walk through that archway. So
it's also saying, go ahead, lose everything.
Yeah, give it all up. Give it all up. Let it go. What's going to be required of us in order to really live on the land the way we need to, you know, in order to restore the land back to the way it needs to be, to repair the wounds that we've made to it. So,
it's kind of like a vision of a place beyond trauma.
That, yes, beyond the land being traumatized and beyond us and the traumas that we carry, right? And I say we and the bigger we, all of us human beings.
I love how you brought the tennis players into it too. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah.
I apologize for this not being a poem.
Yeah.
But this was the story needed to be told. So the only, and it needed to be done this way. And most of what else I will read next week will be all poems. And I believe Robert George might be coming.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
one will be able to
Yeah.
ideally have tea with him.
Yeah.
I hope he stays for that. I hope he comes, and I hope he stays for the tea.
Mhm.
So, and I would,
Robert George, I spoke to him, is really interested in writing his memoirs. I don't know if he's done that yet. When I was in the Fed, I was I was trying to get workshop together, which they were very interested in Couch, and there's several people down there who want to write their memoirs, and he's one of them.
well, there's work to be done, and I, for one, would love to be involved with that. I think
Yeah.
it would feel amazing to be part of that. I
Mhm.
was really moved by by that ceremony that day in his presence, and just the involvement that we all had, that everybody felt very touched that day, something very special. So I don't know, I hope I managed to convey some of that.
When the tennis shows up in the poem, it's so effective because, we're in this sort of Aboriginal landscape, and all of a sudden, tennis, anyone? And it's
Which would be my ancestors. That's who they were. They
I
were like,
know, and the way it shows up is it so mimics the appearance of settlers, and it's like, tennis, what the fuck is that? You can just imagine.
they just, I know, they just came and recreated their genteel life. They had their tea, and they did their and they're out there. You'll see, Paul, those pictures of the women, especially in these white dresses out in the forest, and these white dresses that go down to their ankles. And there's one of, I think it might be my great grandmother, not sure, halfway up a giant tree in her white dress that goes to the
Wow.
ground. It's crazy.
Well,
But you could,
at least
what's
tennis
that?
starts with love, right?
Thank God. Well, I think that's the real message of this. I mean, the message of the elders throughout, the message, I could put more of that in my little essay, but Robert George's message was repeatedly, we are all in this together. We accept, that's the basis of Indigenous thought, is we are all one. They're not out to create those differences. Maybe they had tribal differences, but overall, they're incredibly accepting of all of us. It's a lesson to be learned. So, yeah, at least these elders that I've spoken with. Sorry, Paul?
Many of the themes that I've been talking about poetics as cosmology, and certainly a cosmology that starts with an Indigenous perspective. And it doesn't necessarily mean to take somebody else's Indigenous perspective, but to get into your own indigenosity, because we all have it. Some of us have to go back further, right? And of course, the land acknowledgements are an acceptance of, we are here in somebody else's place, a place that had been somebody else's, and we need to recognize that. So it's a beautiful development that I first heard in British Columbia. So in many ways, BC is leading the way. And then, of course, your own personal mythology and digging into your family history and coming to terms with that and bringing up the beauty of that. Where Mark Gonerman here, he would tell you about his project of San Jose, where he's getting into letters that were shared between Junipero Serra and another high-ranking official in the Catholic Church. And the other guy was pro-Indigenous back in the day, and a good guy.
Wow.
And not someone to be reviled as much of the settlers and colonizers were. And Mark's digging into this history in a beautiful way. He had to leave, and I'm sorry about that. And he would have loved to hear Ingrid's Gary Snyder poem. So Adelia,
Oh, yeah.
because he's Gary Snyder's literary executor, and I had a chance to have tea with him yesterday, which was really beautiful. I did promise a workshop handout, so I don't want to take away from the glow that is left from all the readings, and especially Adelia, your beautiful ending of that. But I just want you to know I dropped it in the chat. I want to share the screen really quickly, just so you get a sense of that. I hope, here it is. She has a poem called The Geology of Norway. So I took elements of that and created the geology of your way. poetry exercise after Jan's wiki. So know that all of these links, poetry is a noetic practice. You click on that and you will hear Miriam Nichols talking about Robin Blazer's take on how poetry as a practice is equal to sociology or philosophy or any other discipline. It's not superior to them, but without poetry, we're missing something from the human universe. And then you can see the interview with Miriam Nichols about Robin Blazer's life, Mechanic of Splendor, in that link right there. And then there's this here, a brilliant poem. So there's a link to the poem. Click on the links. They're very important. And Jan's Wiki's afterword, which was published in the Harvard Philosophical Review or something, Review of Philosophy, I forget. There's a.
Are you going to send this to us, Paul?
It is in the chat right now. And so if you have
I'm on, and it'll be available to you. I can't download from my phone, but it'll be available for us as well.
And
online.
I could send
it's not in the chat.
Has anyone else seen it in the chat? Melinda's got it from the chat. So, Anne, I'll email it to you. But in these, all the links are there. Click on them. I think they're important and helpful. Harvard Review of Philosophy, that's it. So I put an extra link in there just in case people missed it. And other links that I think you'll find interesting. And I end with a McClure poem because I thought it would be appropriate. So from his Touching the Edge, Dharma Devotions from the Hummingbird Sangha. So I'll send it to Adelia. And of course, I had just had lunch with Amy Evans McClure day before yesterday. So Michael is part of this, and he's the one who first told me to read projective verse, and he's really the one who started me on this journey. So I have an infinite debt to him, and here I am very close to where he lived most of his life. So on that note, I call an end to this with huge gratitude. You know, this is what the Coastal Salish, like my Lummi friend Beaver Chief used to say, Haichka, he would say. And if you were really thankful, you had two hands like this. And if you were sort of thankful, you'd have one hand and say Haichka. And if you were not really thankful, you'd just say Haichka. When I say Haichka,
Haichka.
That's for being part of this work. And if you haven't registered for the January classes, you can do so. And I'm delighted. This has been, you know, here I am we're essentially on vacation, and it's like, sorry, 1 to 3, I have a thing to do. I have a thing to do. And I'm doing it, and I show up and I do all the things, and I mute people when I have to, and I share screen when I'm supposed to. And then I just get such energy from it. I just had forgotten how energizing it is to hear all of your work and see where you've taken it from here. And it's really a beautiful thing. So thank you for that, and continued success.
Thank you.
Happy November. Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, this has been lovely, everybody. Nice to see all of you.
Happy Thanksgiving to those in the US.
Yeah.
And you
Happy
guys,
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Canada can eat a little bit too. It's okay.
Yeah, we may eat too.
Eat like a vegan lion, I say.
Eat like a vegan lion.